Hello, this is Cryptolyze. I hope you are doing well on this Tuesday, 29 August 2023. It is with pleasure that I meet you today to talk about Fantom and its crypto FTM. So, as usual, we're going to dissect in two parts. A fundamental part, we're going to come back to what Fantom is, and we're going to come back to Fantom news because there's news all the same. Not bad, especially given the various problems we encountered, especially with bridges. And then we'll go to the technical part to project ourselves in the short, medium, long term and see how Fantom resisted the fall we experienced in BTC in August and how it holds up compared to other cryptos. You will see that it is relatively interesting. It starts right away. So what is Fantom? Already we will start with the basics. Fantom is a layer 1, so it is an infrastructure blockchain which aims to provide developers with tools to be able to build decentralized applications. Its business model around that is the use of its infrastructure. From the moment they are able to have decentralized applications that drain users, they will earn fees. And precisely, it is through these fees that there will be a return that will be released. On the side, there is also the sale and the use of Fantom for businesses, which we will discuss a little later. But it's really the very principle. What makes Fantom different from the rest? There are several things. Already, above all, it is a DAG. That is to say that it is a consensus and a hierarchy, which is different from a notion of a blockchain. A blockchain is one block after another. A DAG, it looks like that or even like that, okay? There is really a construction of the blocks, which makes it possible to have traceability, even the whole, but it is not something which is one after the other. The other thing that really sets Fantom apart is that it's an asynchronous blockchain, okay? It's really the principle of having a consensus, which is precisely Byzantine fault tolerance, but in an asynchronous way. And it is really this notion of asynchrony that allows it to have transaction purposes that are very low and a transaction cost that is really very low. Besides, as I told you, they have a business model that revolves around offering their solutions to companies to be able to build applications that are not necessarily public, but precisely on the stacks. So the development part that has been built by Fantom. Next, we have Fantom Opera, which is the VM that allows you to run smart contracts, which is the software layer that allows you to use the Ethereum infrastructure in which you have something that is EVM compatible and which allows you to build directly in Solidity on it without asking too many questions. Besides, they have other means of programming on it. They have other stacks that allow you to be able to build, but we have something that is really powerful and that allows you to work on classic uses. On the side, we have the monetization of gas. So something that happened this year, which quite simply makes it possible to transfer the gases that have been used by the various applications on the blockchain and to be able to redistribute a part to them. It can be a redistribution that goes up to 40%. And precisely, it's something that was done in which there was in July, if I'm not talking nonsense, 500 FTM, which were redistributed to the different applications. So it's excessively positive for the incentive. The principle we remember is to have developers who build applications that allow users to have users, and these users in their use of decentralized applications that will allow one to be remunerated. Blockchain and two, necessarily also the applications that are around it. Next, we have Fantom, which had a problem with multi-chain, which was one of the main bridges, and in which this problem is now ending, and we have new bridges which have arrived on Fantom, with in particular Layer 0 and Accelerate, which have integrated in particular USDC, USDT, Ethereum, and BTC in wrapped version. So something that was expected, which allows you to really have a very strong reaction, especially with Axelar in particular. If you have already used it, you know that it costs very little and it is very fast to have it. And we also have the news of this August in which we have the foundation that gives us feedback on the Volt ecosystem. A Volt that allows us to be able to finance the ecosystem where we currently have 750 FTM. And we always, that's as I told you, it's quarterly. So the 500 FTM, it's not for the month of July. It's really the last quarter that was carried out. So it's very interesting to see that we still don't have the new incentives that are being done. I remind you that currently Fantom is a blockchain that has $250 million in incentives that are not yet distributed. And therefore, it is something that will have the capacity during the next job to be able to create strong incentives to attract new developers and therefore attract new decentralized applications. Besides, we have Fantom, so that's more up to date, but normally if I don't have nonsense, I should have, here are the latest versions in which we have here a total market cap, which is at 600 million, and we're going therefore having a dilution, which is at 88%, which is completely consistent, and knowing that they have modified the dilution, we know that it will take precisely 5, 6, 7 years before arriving at 100%. So C, it's something that's really going to be done over the long term. So we have 600 million, a small market cap. Clearly, we are not even at the billion in which we already have a user base, which is already present, with still a lot of decentralized applications, something which performed relatively well over the year 2021 and which is likely to perform again over the year 2024 minus 2025. And we can discuss this again immediately in the technical section. So on the technical side, you're going to see that it's really something that's very clean, in which we really have a really clean idiotist wave construction, in which we have wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We will end the fifth wave on the first pink on November 2021, in which then we made a retracement in 3 times ABC with a retest which was carried out on the January period 2022. Because we had a Fantom which upgraded in that period, which is very interesting when we still had a tension that was being created at the level of the real fall of the BTC that had taken place. And we were saying to ourselves that we were consolidating to start rising again. Something that did not happen, you know very well with Terra Luna, and the bearish breakout that we experienced, especially in May and June. So we then had this bearish breakout, which very clearly left us with a week off distribution with a lower ARST. So stop bullish latency. We retrace. We will retest with the classic ST, and we sink towards the sign of weakness, which is a classic accumulation zone in which we will wait to have precisely what is called a break and start rising again. In these accumulation zones, we see something that is really very clean with here, the SC, the STB, which has been carried out, and potentially the spring, which is pending with key levels, which are the lot here of this wave 2 that we are expecting here at 0.15. And what is interesting to see is that when we had the breakout of BTC present, already we had 2 breakouts. We had the first breakout here in June. This is precisely the announcement of the concept of securities by the SEC. We had a big break and we came back up. We swallowed almost all of it. We consolidated above before sinking again in July and the August. And then we had the BTC breakout here in which we swallowed almost more than half of the cow, okay? So we went to retest 0.17 here, retest this batch there, but we swallowed a part, but we see that we don't have a restart too, okay? So we are still in a phase of subsidence. So for me there, we are still in a downward momentum, which we'll certainly have 3 times, in which we risk going for a spring, either retesting the lower part here or going look a little lower, potentially 0.15, 0.14, to take the liquidity that is present there, which would be completely logical before being able to precisely restructure the rise. Okay, because if we look and we take a little step back on Fantom, we see that technically we are in something that has given us a break of structure. We are potentially breaking down, but this is not yet the case. Okay, so far we haven't printed a new batch. We still have this dynamic, which is also there, so we could very well have a return. But even if we had a box on the downside, we have the first bullish impulse where we say to ourselves, okay, well at this moment we have an effective valuation. We have an impulse, a bullish intention of the price, which is in the process of being done. So there we are more in a hunt for liquidity to train a capitulation for then after starting to rise again. And what we will expect anyway is a break of structure. For me, the break of structure will be 0.33 as it stands. So 0.33 to potentially validate a retest here and start rising again. There we will really have a good signal to tell ourselves that we will break this accumulation from the top to then really structure an effective increase. What can we expect as an objective at ghost level? Already there are several. First is that we will have to aim for $2, between 2 and 1.5. Clearly there will be a first sell-off that will be carried out, which will be very strong because many people are still blocked. With an average purchase price here that is in this area, so there will be people who will lighten their ring. And then for me, it will be the new ATH with a break from 3-4, in which inevitably we will be a big sell-off, which will also be in play. What can we aim for as a target on an evolution following an end of bull run 2025? And precisely an advent of the ecosystem in which we have new developers, new decentralized applications, an increase in the TVL, the total value lock, therefore money, which is blocked on the network on the various applications. At that time, it would be to go for the target 1.618 of the big wave 1 and the big wave 2 to go for a big wave 3 impulsive with an FTM in the vicinity of $5-6. And to know that if we have a representation of that, we have to put ourselves in the prerogatives. That implies that we would have here a valuation, a market cap, which would be in the vicinity of something which is quite weak, in fact. We wouldn't be in the equivalent of a Solana of 70 billion. We would be more in something that would be around 10 billion. If ever we were to arrive at an addition of strong liquidity and suddenly the generic valuation of all the cryptos increased, at that time we would be more in something which would be around 20 billion for me, for Fantom on a bull run shade, and therefore something that would be around almost $10, a little less, maybe $9. So there is a bit of a really long-term target that we can have on Fantom, provided, of course, that the ecosystem remains, that we are next to the incentive, that we have an increase in number of developers, decentralized applications, etc. It's a machine that needs to be fed. You have to understand how it works to be able to know whether you're investing or not. Clearly, on a new ATA, it could be consistent to lighten your bag at first to ensure a minimum of profit. It all depends on the strategy you have. Again, it all depends on the situation you have, the exposure you have, and how you are going to decide to handle absolutely all of that. That's all for today. I hope you liked this video. If so, don't forget to leave me a little like and a comment. And I'm sure you'll love the video I did on AKT, AKH's crypto, something trying to produce decentralized cloud computing on Cosmos. You'll see, it's very interesting, and we'll meet tomorrow at 7 for the daily.